Every RP server has a drug system, and almost all of them work the same way. A spot on the map, you press a key, you wait, you go to the next spot. Your players do it once, maybe twice, and then they never touch it again. And you, as an admin, you spend hours configuring Lua files, looking up coordinates by hand, restarting the server 15 times to test. And in the end, you still have a flat system where selling weed is identical to selling cocaine. Let's be straight. These are the real problems every server owner knows. First, stock drug systems are all the same. No variety, no risk, no strategy. Players burn through the content in an hour. Second, configuration is a nightmare. Coordinates found by hand, files to edit, one mistake, and everything breaks. Third, there's no ecosystem. Drugs are disconnected from the rest of the server. No economy, no conflict, no territories. It's just farming. What if I told you there's a script that solves all three of these problems and does it from an in-game dashboard you can use without touching a single config file? This is Drugs Creator. It's not a simple drug script. It's a complete ecosystem for managing drugs on your server. Harvesting, crafting, player-owned factories, selling with 6 different methods, auctions, drug effects, territories, hired dealers, and a community sharing system called Nexus. And all of this is configured right here. No Lua files, no server restarts, everything in real time, all from this interface. Now I'm going to show you every single feature, both how your players use each feature and how you set them up, and why each one adds days of gameplay to your server and saves you weeks of work. The first thing you see when you open Drugs Creator is the dashboard, and it's not decorative. It's the command center of your drug system. At the top, you have the numbers that matter. Total revenue generated by drugs on your server. How many items have been harvested, how many crafted, how many factories are active, and how many dealers are working for your players. But the real value is down here. This chart tells you exactly which selling method is used the most. If you see nobody using Narcos and everyone selling to NPCs, you know you need to balance the prices. This one tells you which drugs sell the most, and for which gang. You can literally see your server's economy in real time. And there's more. With this graph, you immediately see which harvestable items are actually being collected and which are getting ignored, so you know exactly what your players care about. And the dealer performance chart doesn't just show how many items your dealers have sold, but also their average sale price. You can instantly spot who's performing, who's taking advantage of opportunities, and where you might want to adjust prices or limits to keep everything balanced. In these filters, you can look at what happened in the last day, the last week, or since the server launched. Decisions based on data, not guesswork. But this is just the dashboard panel. Let's go ahead. This is your server's map, and every icon you see is an element of the drug system. It's not a static map, it's a working map. Look, I can enable only the harvestable items and see exactly where players collect raw materials. I enable the drug fields and see the field circles with their radius. I enable factories and see the entrances, territories, colored polygons right on the map. And here's the clever part. I click a marker and it opens directly into the editor for that feature. I see a lab in an awkward spot. Click, move it, done. I don't need to look up the ID. I don't need to open a file. I don't need to restart anything. As an admin, this map saves you hours. You see your entire drug ecosystem at a glance and can edit it on the spot. Before creating any content, look at how much freedom you have in the settings. Language? 12 languages included. English, German, Spanish, and many others. Targeting script? You can choose between OX target, QB target, or disable it entirely. and for each feature you can individually decide whether to use targeting or not. Want targeting for labs but not for harvestables? Done. But the centerpiece is the global selling economy. It works like this. You set a minimum number of cops online. If there are fewer cops, the selling price drops gradually, in steps. Your players can no longer wait until 4 a.m. when nobody's online to farm risk-free. Want valuable drugs? You need cops to escape from. Then you have control over automatic farming. You can enable or disable AFK farming separately for harvestables and laboratories. Need police online to harvest? Set the number. Need police to use fields? Different number. And Discord webhooks? Not just one generic one for each type of activity. Your staff knows exactly what's happening and where. Okay, settings are ready. Let's start building your server's drug system, and we start from the foundation, where players get their raw materials. Picture this scenario. You want your players to harvest ingredients for drugs. In 90% of scripts, it's one spot on the map, a single point. Everyone goes there, lines up, and it's boring. With Drugs Creator, a single harvestable item can have multiple coordinates, 5, 10 different spots, scattered across different areas of the map. Each point is a place where players can collect the same item, but spread out so they don't all crowd the same location. You place them in-game with one click, place coordinates, and the coordinates save automatically. You never type a number by hand. Then you decide the appearance. Want a floating icon? A blip on the map? You adjust the scale, color, opacity. It's your server. It should look the way you want. And restrictions? This item can be harvested by anyone, or only by a specific job, or a specific gang, or only by whoever controls a certain territory. Want the raw material to be contested? Tie it to a territory and watch gangs fight for control. This is a single harvestable item. You can create as many as you want. Weed, ingredients, poppy, ephedrine, each with its own locations, restrictions, appearance. Drug fields are different from harvestable items, and the difference matters. A field is an area. You set a center and a radius, and plants spawn randomly within that area. They're not fixed points. Every time, the player finds plants in slightly different positions. That alone makes the experience less repetitive. But the real gameplay is in the item table. Inside the same field, you can have 3, 4, 5 different items, each with a different probability and a different quantity. A player enters a marijuana field and might find regular weed with 60% probability, or rare seeds with 5%. Every harvest is a small slot machine, and that creates a reason to come back. You can also require a specific item to harvest, like a knife or scissors, that gets consumed on use. More depth, more economy. And like harvestables, you can restrict fields by job, gang, or territory. A poppy field controlled by the Italian mafia that has to defend it from rival gangs? That's RP that writes itself. You are not limited to plants, though. You can use any object model you want, with any animation that fits the object. Okay, your players have the raw material, but raw material is worth nothing until you process it, and this is where the gameplay gets really interesting. Crafting recipes are the heart of processing. You take raw material and turn it into a finished product. But Drugs Creator doesn't stop at put A in, get B out. Every recipe has a perfect result and an imperfect one. If your player puts in the exact quantities, they get the best product. If they get the proportions wrong, they get a lower quality version worth less. This rewards players who know the recipes and punishes those who guess. Laboratories are the physical locations where this happens. You place them wherever you want, assign which recipes that lab can run. Maybe this lab only does meth, that one only cocaine, and add restrictions. A lab can belong only to whoever controls a territory or only to a specific gang. Now watch. Simple crafting. When it's disabled, the player has to remember the recipe. How much of each ingredient? It's a discovery system. They try, fail, learn, share recipes with each other. That alone generates RP. If you want something more accessible, you enable simple crafting and the recipes become visible. And if someone gets the recipe wrong, in settings, you can enable fire and explosion. The lab catches fire, and you have a countdown before the explosion. Getting it wrong has real consequences. Risk makes crafting tense, and tension is gameplay. Factories are the highest tier of production. You're no longer harvesting plants in a field or crafting in a hidden lab. You're running an industrial operation. Every factory has a predefined interior type, like a meth lab or a coke lab, with workstations distributed inside, mixing, pressing, cutting, packaging. The player walks up to a station, starts the process, and the animation begins. But the real feature is ownership. A player, or a gang, can purchase a factory. It becomes their operation. They can whitelist their members, access the factory stash where products accumulate, and make upgrades. Upgrades add NPC workers to stations. You invest money, an NPC starts working for you. If an NPC occupies a station, the player can't use it manually, but the work gets done anyway. More upgrades, more production, more profit, but also more investment and more risk if the police find your factory. This transforms the drug game from an individual activity into an organized business. And organized business creates conflict, alliances, and betrayals. It creates stories. Now, not all your players run factories. Some are small-time dealers working the streets, and they need their gameplay too. Not all crafting needs to happen in a lab. Pocket crafting is for the simple things. The things your player does on the street, on the fly. Not all crafting needs to happen in a lab. Pocket crafting is for the simple things. The things your player does on the street, on the fly. It works like this. You pick a trigger item, the one the player uses from their inventory. You add the required items. You set the result and the time. When the player uses that trigger item, if they have everything needed, the craft starts on the spot. The classic example, rolling paper plus weed equals a joint. But you can do anything. Mix 2 drugs to create a third. Combine a reagent with raw material to get an intermediate product. It's lightweight, fast, and requires no specific location. One important note, each item can only have one use from the inventory. You can't use the same item as both a pocket crafting trigger and an item with an effect, so think your design through carefully. Selling drugs in your server doesn't have to be repetitive. With Drugs Creator, you have 6 different systems for selling, each with its own rules, style, and risks. Players can fly planes, drive boats, sell on the street to NPCs, Look for special buyers like Narcos, find fixed pushers, or try new ways to sell. Every system gives a different experience and fits different kinds of players. As an admin, you decide everything. You control limits, rewards, sale areas, and how police react. It's a flexible toolkit to keep your server's drug gameplay interesting and active. Plane selling. The player loads drugs onto a plane, flies over the ocean at a minimum altitude you set, and must hold the route for a certain number of seconds. If the police get the alert and intercept them, they lose everything. If they make it, they cash out. You can restrict the area, the entire ocean or a specific zone with coordinates and radius. You can decide whether to show the radius on the map. Each drug has its own reward. All configurable, no files. Same logic, on the water, boat, ocean, timer. Maybe less spectacular than a plane, but it's one more option. And variety is what keeps players engaged. Each selling method has a different risk, a different reward, and attracts a different type of player. Street selling. The player walks up to any NPC and tries to sell, but it's not automatic. There's a probability the NPC accepts, and another probability they call the cops, and another one still where they try to rob the player. You can restrict the selling zones, anywhere, only in territories controlled by the player's gang, or you create custom zones directly on the map with a polygon editor. Every parameter is under your control. Sell chance, quantity, max sales per session. This is economy micromanagement done right. As an example, I'll show you how to restrict NPC selling only to a specific zone in the map. Done. As easy as that. Narcos are buyers who move around. Every hour they change location and change the drug they want. The player has to find them, have the right drug, and sell before they move again. This creates urgency. You can't plan everything. You have to adapt. And if you set only one buyer per location, whoever gets there first sells the drug. Player competition, zero admin intervention. Pushers are the opposite of Narcos. Fixed NPCs, always in the same spot with real server working hours. Each pusher only accepts certain drugs and has a per-player limit. They're the stable selling points. Predictable, but with consistent earnings. But here's where it gets interesting. You can set the exact working hours for every pusher. For example, a pusher might show up only from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. real-world time, and then disappear for the rest of the day. And if you want pushers to be available at any hour of the day, just add more pushers in different time slots. There's no limit. And there's more. Each time a pusher spawns, you can have them accept only one random drug from their list. Total control and endless variety. You decide the rules, the schedule, the limits. No other script gives you this much power over how and when drugs are sold on your server. Corner selling. The player picks a street corner, stops, and starts selling to passers-by. The sell probability depends on how many NPCs are nearby. You can spawn extra NPCs if the area is empty or your server doesn't have NPCs. You can both use a command or the trap phone, which is an item that includes some other features I'll show you soon. 6 selling methods, 6 different experiences, 6 types of risk. A player can specialize in one or use them all, and you as admin see in the dashboard exactly which method is used the most, and balance accordingly. 6 selling methods would already be enough for most scripts, but Drugs Creator has 5 more features to show you, and each one adds a completely new layer to the gameplay. Okay, that was too much. Better to avoid it. In most scripts, drugs do nothing. You sell them, that's it. But in a serious RP server, drugs have effects. And Drugs Creator has the most detailed effects system you've ever seen. Let's start with the consumption method. It's not cosmetic. Every method has a different animation. Smoking, snorting, a needle, a bong, a pill, a drink. Some of the taking methods have an extra parameter, max puffs, how many hits before the effect is complete. Having max puffs allows you not only to use the item multiple times, but it also allows you to share the item with other players. For example, smoking a joint together with your friend. As an example, I'll show you how to create a joint. We'll exaggerate with the effect, I guess this weed was cut with heavy metals. And the effects themselves? Look at this timeline. You can place any effect at any moment. Pink vision for the first 10 seconds, then confused vision until minute 2, then random falls, then a stamina boost. Every effect has its own properties, duration, intensity. You have visual filters, camera filters, you can reproduce psychedelic songs, special effects like a car that follows you or ghost vision, physical effects like drunk walking and falls, and perks. Yes, drugs can give advantages. Extra armor, health, faster sprint, infinite stamina, faster swim. The risk reward is real. Drugs are dangerous but provide benefits. There is also cumulative intensity. If the player takes multiple drugs, the intensity rises. When all effects expire, it resets. Controlled stacking. But my favorite is live preview. You click the button, the effects start in-game in real time. You see exactly what the player will see. No saving, no exiting, no testing, no going back. Live preview. Iterative design in seconds. Let me show you a few examples. We will start with a light one, and then a very heavy one. Your creativity will be limitless with this tool. Now let's make a heavy one, something that fits psychedelics. Do you want to make your players paranoid? Let's mix some other interesting effects. Showing you every possibility would be impossible because there truly are no limits to what you can create. So far, we've covered harvesting, production, selling, and effects. But a drug system without conflict is just farming. Now let me show you how Drugs Creator creates war. This is the system that transforms your server from players farming to gangs fighting. Territories. It works like this. You draw polygons on the map. Each polygon is a territory. The gangs or jobs you assign compete for control. How do you take a territory? By selling drugs inside it, killing enemies, and also custom actions by using the script's exports. Every dollar in sales equals points. You decide the threshold. For example, you can make that $10,000 sold equals 1 point. Every kill gives points. And you can decide whether only defensive kills count, only offensive ones, or both. The gang with the most points controls the territory, and control gives concrete advantages. A bonus on selling price, lower chance of the police being alerted, and the ability to receive an alert when an enemy sells drugs in your territory. But it's not static. Points decay over time. You lose them if you're not active. And there's a maximum point pool per territory. When it's full, new points steal from whoever is in the lead. This means no territory is ever truly safe. And then there are hot zones. Territories can be randomly chosen as hot zone for how many days you decide, and as long as those territories are hot zones, they will have boosted bonuses. This encourages gangs to fight for the hot zones, and the war intensifies. Fully automatic, fully configurable. As admin, you see the status of every territory, who controls it, how many points they have, how many points remain, all from the menu. You can reset manually, set up auto reset, manage decay. But how do players see the status of territories? That's where our trusted trap phone comes in. Just open the trap phone, go to the last tab, and your players can check everything about territories. Who owns what, how many points, what perks they get, and even which zones are hot right now and give boosted bonuses. It's all right there, easy to use. Here's a feature that adds a management layer you haven't seen in any other drug script: hire dealers. If your gang controls a territory, you can hire dealers. You do it from the trap phone. Open the phone, choose the territory, choose the dealer type. Each type has a cost, a fee on sales, and different modifiers for efficiency and risk, and put them to work. When you hire a dealer, you'll have to meet him up to give him the stock. If the dealer has stock, wait some time and you'll see updates about him, like the sales he does, if he gets arrested or robbed. When you are satisfied with the money he makes, you can meet him again to give him more stock and to collect the earnings. Let's see the configuration. The dealer sells automatically at regular intervals. Every sale has a probability of success, a variable quantity, and generates heat. Heat is risk. The more the dealer sells, the more heat rises. The higher the heat, the more likely they get arrested or robbed. If they get arrested, you lose the dealer and all their stock. If they get robbed, you lose 30 to 60% of their stock. Heat decays over time, but if you push too hard, you lose everything. You can have multiple dealers, each with their own stock, earnings, heat. The player has to balance how many dealers to activate, when to pull the stock, when to let the heat cool down. This is a management mini-game. You're no longer selling yourself. You're running an organization, and wrong decisions cost you. Now, something your players would never expect from a FiveM server: auctions. Auctions are events. They're not passive sales. They're high-tension moments where players compete to buy drugs or any item in bulk. A broker appears at a location with a vehicle. Players who want to participate walk over. The auction starts. Round after round, item after item, each player places their bid. If nobody bids, the auction moves on. If there's competition, the price climbs. You can randomize the item order, multiply quantities each round, set how many rounds there are, the time between rounds, and after which round the police get the alert. And the best part? You can automate everything. In settings, you set one auction every 2 hours, and the system launches auctions automatically whenever none is active. Your server has drug events that generate themselves, without you doing anything. Last feature, and this is the one that makes Drugs Creator different from everything else. Nexus is a community library built directly into the script, and this changes the rules of the game. You open Nexus and see configurations created by other server owners. Harvestable items, recipes, laboratories, effects, factories, territories, all shared. Find something you like? Import it with one click. If the item names don't match your inventory, the system asks you to map the names. Import. Done. It works. But you're not just a consumer. Created an incredible visual effect, a perfectly balanced territory, a recipe your players love, share it on Nexus. The community votes on it, rates it, and if it's good, other servers use it. Think about what this means. You're not starting from zero. Hundreds of configurations created by other owners are already available. Setup time for your drug system goes from hours to minutes, and the average quality of configurations rises because the best ones get voted up and adopted. No other script has this. It's a competitive advantage that grows over time. As an example, I'll show you how to import many crafting recipes from Nexus. We'll take the ones created by Stranger. Well, that's his nickname. Thank you, Stranger, for sharing your recipes with the community. You open the content, see the list of new things, and press Import. Then the menu will show you the entire list of items used in the feature you are importing. If the items don't exist yet in your inventory, the system will show you, and you can decide if keeping the items, names you see on screen, or using placeholders. If you use placeholders, you'll have to edit the imported content later. That's it. No need to create the wheel again unless you want to. Let's recap the 5 things that make Drugs Creator essential. 1. The dashboard. Real data, informed decisions. You don't manage your server blind every day. 2. 6 selling methods. Every player finds their style. Every session is different. 3. Territories. Organic conflict, faction war, motivation to come back online. 4. Effects with timeline. Drugs in your server have a real impact on gameplay. They're not just items in an inventory. 5. Nexus. Weeks of setup become minutes, and the catalog grows. But it's complicated to configure. No. Everything is done from the in-game UI. 0 files, 0 restarts, 0 syntax errors. If you can use a computer, you can use Drugs Creator. But it costs too much. How much does a drug system cost you when players abandon it after a week? How much admin time do you waste fixing free scripts? Drugs Creator pays for itself on day one in saved hours and player retention. But I already have a drug system. How many of the features you've seen today do you have in your current system? Territories, hired dealers, auctions, 6 selling methods, effects timeline, Nexus? If the answer is no, you're leaving gameplay on the table. But my players won't use everything. They don't have to. You can enable only what you want. But having the option means that when your players ask, "Is there nothing else to do?" you always have an answer. Let's summarize the value in concrete terms. 14 features integrated into a single ecosystem. 6 selling methods. Territories with dynamic war. Automated dealers with a risk system. Effects with visual timeline. Community library with import and export. All managed from an in-game interface. No configuration files. No restarts. Real-time updates. Compatible with OX Target, QB Target, ESX, QB-Core, and QBX. This is not a script. It's an operating system for drugs on your server. If you run an RP server and want a drug system that lasts, that your players actually use, and that you can manage without losing your mind, Drugs Creator is what you need. The link is in the description. If you have any questions, support is available on Discord. See you in game.